Hey, good morning, Friday morning. I'm here with Jeff from TraumaType. TraumaType Jeff, except not anymore, I don't think. Right? You've
No, now it's
rebranded your channel.
Nichols Astrology. Oh, I didn't name my thing to stream to my audience. Oh well.
Nichols Astrology. His channel's in the description, but I'm going to drop it in the chat. Um, Here, see if that link should still take you there. I have him as TraumaType.
Okay.
Nichols Astrology. So we're going to talk about that today and catch up and other things that you want to talk about.
All right. Well, I'm a little irritated to be honest right now. I got hit with the biggest load of bureaucracy that I have seen in a long time. So go ahead and try to finish this sentence for me. In order to practice astrology within the city limits of Tucson, I have to obtain a blank.
No way. A certification from the AFA?
No, a fortune teller's license.
You're kidding.
No. Oh no.
How hard
So
is that to obtain?
so I went down there right before this meeting. I didn't finish the paperwork. One, I didn't want to get put on their radar yet because I don't know if I'm gonna go rogue. I probably shouldn't be saying this online. What it kind of consists of, from what I understand, is I got to apply for a business license and this fortune teller license. So simultaneously, the police department are booked 2 months out. I have to wait 2 months, 2.5 months. I got to go and pay $22 in a cashier's check or a money order to get my fingerprints done. They have to do a background investigation. They have to look at all my residences in the past 5 years and all this and that. Then it takes like another month and a half or whatever to approve that. Then maybe early July, if nothing goes wrong, I'll be lucky enough to have this license, which is going to cost me another $175 on top of that to practice astrology in Tucson.
Oh my God. I didn't
Even if
realize it was so regulated.
I didn't either. I went down to this metaphysical shop and I kind of got like this Limmerman reading. It's kind of like tarot. And I was like, I talked to her before about, getting hired there as an astrologer part-time or something like that. And she's like, oh, you got to get your fortune teller's license. You got to get your business license and all this and that. And like, what the hell?
So
But
you have to set yourself up as an actual business.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I had to do my peer counseling. What can you do it online for just as a like as a YouTuber?
So like if I'm in Tucson city limits, I can't. No. Even if I'm doing it someone in fucking Timbuktu or Egypt or whatever, I still have to have this fortune teller's license. I guess the whole point of it is, besides to keep the little guy down and to squeeze every penny they can out of you, is to kind of prevent like charlatans for like snake oil salesman type of thing. I
Well,
guess
yeah,
that's
but what about the TV preachers and the matchmakers and people give their money to charlatans all the time. People have the right to do that.
yeah. I mean, there's people that will like scam you out of your house, and the police don't seem all that concerned with them. Like
Can you like brand it as something else and just take donations for now? Like if somebody wants to send you a super chat or Cash App or something and just I know YouTube doesn't let you do individual sessions either as part of membership perks. But can you do it maybe like Patreon as a donation or something, a certain membership tier?
I don't know. Like I said, I just came from there. I haven't looked at the loopholes yet or anything like that. There's this other astrologer who I'm not going to name because I don't want to get him in trouble in case he doesn't have his, but I'm going to ask him if he got his stuff and has anybody bothered him. So I know TPD are horrendously understaffed, and I think someone practicing astrology without a license is probably the least of their concerns.
Probably so. There's probably a creative way around this for now, just to
Yeah.
get you started and get you a little bit of income coming in. So, well, tell us about the astrology, because before that you had a channel mostly devoted to personality typing, MBTI.
Yeah, so I started with Jungian typology, or what it's called as MBTI, which I think is a really poor, watered down version of Jung's work. Pretty much like you might know you're an INFJ or an ENTP or INTJ or whatever. I'm an INTJ. We talked to Jeff. He's a ENTP. So yeah, there are 16 different personality types, and well, I think astrology is just a far superior way to look into your personality. I mean, we did your reading with Xeon and
Mm-hmm.
myself, and that was before I really knew anything about astrology. But yeah, I think this is something really perfect, especially like if you struggle with neurodivergence and you're different, and you kind of go into society and you're just don't fit in, and all these other people are telling that you're weird and strange and you're worthless. But it kind of turns out like you can find your strengths are probably more likely just less common. So astrology is something that's really awesome to kind of help you find what your strengths and weaknesses are. And like neurotypical people probably see your strength as weaknesses because they don't understand it. So you can go in your birth chart and find something out about yourself and like, wow, I can really turn this what I perceived as something that's just ostracizes me from people is actually a gift.
I had my chart read on. I'm trying to find the link on Jeff's channel, and it was very. What was his name? Xenon.
Xeon.
Xeon. I'd never met the guy before, and he read my birth chart live online, and it was uncanny. I would say downright freaky how much this guy could tell about me and my personality and my childhood and my inner psyche just from reading this birth chart.
Yeah, it's crazy how it works, and people like scoff at it. And I've lost like 10 subscribers since I announced that I'm going to astrology. But the thing is that Carl Jung practiced astrology. He was a big proponent of it. He didn't really write much about it for some reason, but he liked astrology.
What? Oh, so before we get into the astrology, what you said that MBTI you find it to be a watered down version of Jung. So what are the differences? Like, what's the advantage of Jung, or what's the Jungian perspective on typology in contrast to MBTI?
Okay, so first MBTI is the Myers-Briggs type indicator. More or less, it's a test. And it was just this housewife and this mom. They came up and they took 20 years to formulate this test, pretty much. What it kind of does is it has 4 letters and there's like 4 different dichotomies, and whatever dichotomy you're on is gives you the letter. Like first off, there's the I versus the E, which is introversion versus extroversion, which is pretty self-explanatory. Even though a lot of people who like claim to be one or the other are actually not. So if you're an introvert, pretty much you need time to be alone and recharge, and you prefer not to start conversations, and you prefer people to come to you to start conversations. If you're an extrovert, you like to start conversations, you like to get recharged from external stimuli, and you kind of change the subject a lot. Oh, hey, Uncle Flamo, daughter.
Yeah, hey Hank, and Hank's been part of your channel
Yeah,
before
yeah,
too.
he's been on. We actually read his birth chart too. It was really interesting because we're trying to determine his type. Like Xeon and I were debating INTJ or ENTJ, and his chart probably does look more ENTJ actually now that I've studied
I
more.
think he says he's INTJ. We talked about it the other day, in
Yeah,
fact.
yeah, yeah. So he's kind of a, and there's like Amber version too.
The
We were
E is
talking
for Enigma.
Enigma. There you go. Yeah, but there's like Amber version too, and that's kind of like where you're kind of in the middle of the fence, and you can go kind of either way.
That's what I am.
Yeah,
I'm both. I'm an X in XP technically.
yeah. Like ENTPs and ENFPs are kind of seen as the most introverted extroverts, while INFJs are the most extroverted introverts. If that makes sense.
Lately, you've been. That's all your time in the panelverse. You're that
What's that?
I is shifting to an E. It's what do they call it when the function turns into its opposite, starts to reverse. Jung had a term for it.
I never heard that one actually.
Yeah, like when an introvert starts to extrovert or vice versa.
Maybe it's like an individualization thing, kind of like where I don't know, you kind of come into your something that usually happens around midlife, and you start kind of integrating your shadow. Like I'm an INTJ and I have avoidant personality disorder and probably a touch of autism too, and I am extremely, extremely introverted, even though I'm sitting in front of here on camera talking in front of pretty much anybody who has an internet connection can view me and around the world, you know. But I'm trying to kind of get over some of that issues and put myself out there, obviously, where I can kind of help people in my own way, I guess.
Well, you said you find astrology better, like more helpful even than MBTI. So let's talk about that. People that may not know much about astrology or may be astrology skeptics, what can it offer that the MBTI doesn't, or what it, or
First,
like it? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, we kind of got sidetracked and didn't explain the MBTI completely. So
Hmm.
we talked about the E and the I, the introversion, extroversion. Now there's the N versus the S, which is intuitive and sensor. Like sensors are real concrete. They talk about things that are, you know, here and now. You know, they don't really talk about abstract topics as much. And these are just preferences. It's not like they can't be spiritual. They can't have psychic abilities and things like that. And intuitives are more like conceptual, abstract thinking. Then there is the F versus a T, the thinking versus a feeling, where you lead with your head versus your heart. And again, if you're a thinker, you're not this emotionless bastard. And if you're a feeler, you're not stupid. So that's kind of like where it gets dragged down. It's really, really simplified. And what's the last one? Oh, the worst one, save the worst for last, is the P versus the J, which is perceiving versus judging. So the big flaw with the MBTI is Meyer or Isabel Meyer. She wanted to identify people with their first extroverted function. So like an INTJ, their first extroverted function is extroverted thinking, which is a judging function. But naturally, we're perceivers in a lot of different ways because NI, introverted intuition, which we lead by, our hero function or superior function is kind of how we perceive things. So we kind of just go around like I don't want to get too much of this into it. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with it. You can definitely get more. But kind of what the problematic, like Hankel Flammel was just talking about it. He takes these online tests and people test and they get a completely different opposite what result what they are. And it's not consistent. You can take it like 5 minutes later and you'll get a totally different type. So you might type 5 different things, you know, and you don't know which type you are. And another problem thing is too, like certain types like INTJs and INFJs are kind of fetishized, even though in reality we're some of the types who have it hardest, really, because we're
Oh,
some
what in what ways are y'all fetishized?
because people see us as these really deep intuitive thinkers and that we're super intelligent and we're super good with people and we're like Jesus and we're like Buddha and we can change the
Oh,
world and these
Lord.
sort of things. But a lot of us are just living in our mom and dad's basements, really traumatized because we're bullied our entire lives, and it's really not that
That
great
sounds
as
like a
people
very
think.
internet thing,
Yeah, it is.
phenomena.
It's very pop culture, pop psychology. So MBTI is garbage in my opinion. And you can actually pay to get typed by an MBTI practitioner. It kind of varies on price, but even that's not 100%.
Do they need a license?
I don't know. Who knows? I'm sure you need a license
Probably.
for everything.
A charlatan's license.
Yeah. Because it's just as misconstrued as astrology. But Jung, he really didn't dive that deep into it. He wrote a book called Psychological Types, which is like reading the Bible backwards. It's a very complex, confusing book. He desperately needed an editor, but he refused to have an editor.
Because there in MBTI, there's four functions. We think and we feel, and we sense. We take in sensory data, and we intuit. There's intuition, and then the extroversion introversion is called an attitude, and it's the individual functions are either directed outward or inward, and the
Yeah.
J and P are preferences. Thinking and feeling are judging functions, and sensing and intuiting are perceiving functions. And it's which one you have a preference for. Do you prefer to take in information, or do you prefer to actively operate on that information more than
Yeah.
take it in? And so the core of the system is those four functions. How how much do you think versus feel, and how much do you use intuition versus direct sensory perception?
Yeah. So MBTI acknowledges four functions. Even like I've read Types or Gifts Differing, which is the book that Isabel Myers wrote. She really didn't even talk about the cognitive functions at all.
Oh,
but there are 8 cognitive functions. So there's introversion, extroversion, or there's like intuitive thinking and extroverted thinking, and there's introverted intuition and extroverted intuition. There's an introverted and extroverted variant of each of the main 4 functions. So Jung, he pretty much just called people like, oh, you're an extroverted intuitive with thinking preferences. So that's you're an ENTP, or you're an extroverted intuitive with feeling preferences. That'd make you like an ENFP. So he really didn't dive down, but other people extrapolated his work, like John Beebe, which I did an interview with on my channel, and made it a lot more diverse and a lot more solid, because human cognition is anything but simple, and the MBTI just oversimplified things, and it's just time to kind of move
time to
on from
move on,
that.
or
Yeah.
time to return to something pre-MBTI, even more ancient than MBTI. Because with astrology, you don't have to take a test. It's already determined for you by the time and place of your birth.
Yeah, exactly. So I practice what's called evolutionary astrology. There's many, many different types of astrology. And this is a Western modern type. So like if you go to like a Vedic or a medieval astrologer, like you might have a Taurus sun, but since the time of the ancients, we had now like the pretty much, how to explain it is like how we revolve around the sun, we orbit around the sun, the stars orbit around something. We're orbiting around this black hole in our galaxy. So if you're a Taurus sun, you're actually probably like a Gemini sun now, but you're still
Because
considered Taurus.
the stars have moved over thousands and thousands, so they're not in the same place they were when astrology was originally developed. And
Correct.
so the modern version accounts for the shift in positions relative to thousands of years ago.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So now we kind of just use it as a timekeeping thing, like Aries. We're about to hit Aries season, and that's the spring equinox. So it's like the astrological new year because Aries is the first sign. Then Cancer is the summer solstice. Then Virgo, no, Libra is the fall equinox. Then Capricorn is the winter solstice. So it's just kind of like a calendar in a way.
Yeah. And then your individual birth chart progresses through your life too. So if you read your birth chart when you're 5, it's going to be different than if you read it when you're 40 because the planets and the constellations will have advanced as you move through life.
Yeah. So like your birth chart pretty much is what I kind of am doing right now. Astrology is very, very complicated. It's a lot more sophisticated than typology will ever be. That's why I think it's far superior. And one thing I am trying to work on is look at different people's charts and kind of determine their personality type through their chart and kind of see patterns and kind of like whatnot, and to kind of figure out like, oh, this is a chart of an ENTJ versus this is a chart of an ESTJ or something like that. But it's very, very nuanced, and people are individuals. That's another thing with typology is because, oh, I'm an INTJ, so I'm like all other INTJs. No, your MBTI type is like 10% of your personality. I kind of see it as a skeletal system. It kind of holds everything up. Then you're an individual with everything else, you know?
People do that with sun signs too, like Scorpios all
Yeah.
have a type, Aries all have a type. Although every Leo I've met so far has been very Leo. Um, I lost it. It'll come back. Oh yeah. Well, today's a good day to do this show anyway because tonight we have the planetary parade. All the 7 planets are going to be aligned with each other in the night sky. And in fact, we're going to do an evening stream for it,
Oh, yeah.
celebrating it. So
Interesting.
today is a planet astrology day. If somebody, okay, people new to astrology, what are the building blocks? What are the fundamentals, the basics that to start with? You have planets, you have constellations, 12 of them, that's the zodiac. You have houses, which is how your chart, areas of life that your chart is divided into. What else is important for someone to know, or how would you get someone started?
So, like you were saying, everybody knows their sun sign, and everybody that is like the biggest kind of denouncing factor that people have of astrology is, well, how come everybody born in Cancer season they're all different? Well, the answer is because you have a sun, you have a moon, you have an ascendant, you have a midheaven, you have a astrological nadir, you have a descendant, you have a Mercury, Venus, and Mars, Jupiter, and all the way through. Plus, there's asteroids. It gets really, really complicated. Um, So that's why you're not like other Leos. Like you said, every Leo sun you met is very Leonian, but I'm actually a Leo sun and I'm not very Leo-like.
Oh, well, then I take it back because I would not have guessed.
But a whole other nuance. It's something that could just make your head spin. Like one thing, like I've been having a lot of health issues for 2024. I was pretty much like completely out of commission. That's why one
Oh,
reason why I didn't post any stuff online. I may put like 2 or 3 videos out, but I also had to study astrology. It took me like a good 6, 9 months to really studying just to get the fundamentals. It's actually quite complex.
how did you do it? Did you do it through a course or just self-study?
So most of it was self-study. Then I decided to go to the Forrest Center of Evolutionary Astrology, which is run by Stephen Forrest, who's the evolutionary astrologer who I kind of like. Most his work mostly resonates with me, and that's kind of like who Xeon is. His big the guy we talked about that read your birth chart.
Oh
His
yeah, he
big,
was good.
yeah, it's kind of his big influence as well. And I did the first course, like the apprenticeship course of birth chart reading. I found it quite simplistic, and to be fair, I already had a pretty strong foundation in astrology, but I think that's just for absolute beginners. So I just kind of breeze through that sort of thing. And I don't know if I want to continue or not. It's kind of expensive. Like the whole course takes like
Is it
3 or 4
online or are you train in person where you are?
online.
Okay.
So it's like a 3 or 4 year course, but it costs like $5,700 altogether.
Oh Lord. Okay. You should
Yeah,
you should come with a free license at that price.
yeah. But you know, if you look at like I go live right by the University of Arizona, that's like 2 classes for a whole semester, and you know, and you still have to get 4 more years worth of that, and costs like $30,000. So
Wow. Oh
it's
my
not,
God. College went up.
yeah. So it's not really that expensive, I guess, if you look at the grand scheme of things. But you don't need to actually be licensed in that capacity to be an astrologer. I guess just stupid bullshit municipal laws you have to.
Is Xeon licensed or he just does it as a hobby?
I don't know what he's in another state. He's really private, so I don't want to give too many details. But he lives in a
Okay.
completely different side of the country, and I doubt he's licensed. No, but he doesn't really. He has like a lot of stuff, but he doesn't like to advertise himself out. It's kind of like I don't know his own
Okay.
inner
Well, we'll
struggle
leave
he
him
has going
alone.
on. Yeah, but so I can do free birth chart readings and stuff too, and it's not fortune telling. It's if an astrologer's telling you they're going to tell your fortune, then they're a charlatan.
It's more your personality, like exploring your psyche and what makes you
Yeah.
you, your tendencies, your preferences, your
So
personality.
absolutely. So yeah, evolutionary astrology, it kind of focuses on the north and south node of the moon. So they're not any planetary points. It's just like kind of like the how we like we're viewing the moon from what I understand. I'm a little fuzzy on this still. Like when you look at the moon in the sky, you might even be seeing the north side of it or the south side of it. So the south side of it, it kind of revolves around reincarnation too. You don't have to look at it that way. Like the south node in Stephen Forrest's sense kind of indicates like what you were in past lives and how the karma developed in past lives. Like I have a really interesting nodal story which I kind of been studying and I think it's true. So if I could actually just share my screen real quick, it'd probably make it a little easier. If you don't mind.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
All right, you could just talk while I get this on if you
Do
want.
you
Kind of.
believe in reincarnation?
So the more I read this, the more I do. We actually had a really interesting story of this birth chart I read for free of this ENTJ gal. Um, it was really interesting because she had Saturn and Pluto and her south node in the fifth house, and what I read is like it's not exact either, so you don't can't like an astrologer can't tell you exactly what you were in a past life. But what she pretty much said is like so that would indicate something like hardships around children. Maybe she's infertile, maybe she had a lot of miscarriages, something kind of that nature. And she says she does past life regression. She had it done on herself. And she said in her past life she was a female Holocaust survivor, a Jewish woman, and she was very malnourished, and she had miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage, and finally she was able to have a baby. But after her and a child were born, they were taken to a gas chamber and killed.
Oh my God.
So that carries over in this life. And she said when she was 3 years old, she's never going to have a kid. So she was 3 years old and she already said this. Then I guess there was this one kid that she babysitted when she was 14, and the past life regressionist somehow said this was your son in a past life, and this kid was like really really attached to her and called her mom and everything else like that. So it's very strange.
I wonder if Zephyr's out there. We have a community member named Zephyr who has talked about some of her past lives on here before as
Oh,
well.
that'd be really interesting. I'm supposed to read this one lady I work with. She's a past life regressionist, and we're supposed to trade, but we keep having stuff happen. What's going on with this?
I guess my only comment, and just to be balanced, is that all of that can be explained without the past life as well. Like infertility could just be infertility.
Yeah,
She could just have a really deep connection with that kid. Oh
yeah,
wow,
yeah,
this is pretty to look at. This is
yeah.
yours?
This is my chart. Yeah,
Oh, well, you have a. I'm jealous. You have a nice, symmetrical, colorful chart.
yeah. I
Looks a
think
lot
if
better than the new pride flag.
the new is there a new one now?
Well, the, the latest edition, but I'm sure they're always updating it.
Yeah, I think every time we talk to them, or every time I see there's a new letter in their little fucking LBGTQ stuff, and they're gonna start using letters that are completely made up, like they use genders, I guess.
Made
Yeah, but anyways, so this is the north node, and this software doesn't have the south node because I'm gonna keep having to write it in.
Why would
And
it
it's
have the north and not the south? That bothers me.
yeah, I should have had a different one, but I didn't have it ready.
Oh,
And all these little squiggly lines are aspects. We're kind of ignore that right now. I can't do a full birth chart analysis. We were talking about doing Donald Trump's birth chart, right?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Have you
maybe
done it yet? You were
I
gonna
kind of
attempt it.
yeah, I kind of look at it. So maybe I can study it. We could set up a time, and we can do like a double stream like we're doing right now, and we can discuss his chart. I think that'd be a lot of fun because I also remember we were talking like a week ago or two with some people, and we're debating his type, but it was just too late, and I was too stoned to really
Oh yeah.
yeah
Oh
to
yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
But anyways, this is the South Node. It's a very poor rendition. You were in a past life. If you're an atheist or whatever, or Christian or whatever, and you don't believe in reincarnation, that's fine. Just look at this as something that you're naturally good at, but is holding you back and keeping you from developing. And this is the North Node. This is something that feels foreign and strange and somewhere that we need to go.
What
so,
what is more important to look at, the house or the sign,
so,
or both?
so this is your sun sign. This little circle with a dot in it. This is your moon sign, and this is what's called the ascendant.
Your rising
The
sign.
rising sign. So you need your birth time, hopefully to the exact minute, if possible, to figure out what your ascendant is. And what the ascendant is the cusp of your first house. And there's 12 houses. You can see these numbers right here. They're the different 12 houses. So if you don't have your birth time, or you think you know what your birth time is, but you don't know, like you say you're born at 6 in the morning, but you're really born 6 in the afternoon. Everything's going to be reversed. All the planets and stuff are pretty much going to be the same because they move slow. But you can kind of look at the sun as the hour hand, the moon as the minute hand, and the ascendant as the second hand. So it's like a clock.
Oh, okay.
So I was born at 10:27 a.m. in Florence, Arizona. So this is where my ascendant is. So I'm a Libra rising technically. So this is like depends the houses. So I guess I could give a brief astrology breakdown. I made some videos on it too. But of course, your sun sign, that's what everybody knows. That's when you're born. I was born August 21st. So I'm kind of a Leo sun, but I'm kind of going into the Virgo cusp.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of like Stephen Forrest, the guy I'm studying under. He says, if you're a Leo, you're a Leo. But there's a lot of people who believe like you can kind of exhibit both
Well, but
traits of both
because of the
Virgo.
progression, if you're born on the cusp, you're gonna eventually move into the succeeding
Yeah.
sign pretty quickly.
Yeah. So there's like double or secondary progressions where I'm not completely sold on it yet. But like for every year, your son will move a degree in this. So like I'm 40 now, so my son's probably like over here somewhere.
Yeah.
And each sign has 30 degrees in it. All these little lines represent a degree or 2 degrees maybe, because that's not quite 30. So this is a full circle. It's 360 degrees. So there's 360 degrees in there. So how you would calculate like your secondary, it is a flat earth astrology chart. That is why there's no south node. Perhaps, perhaps.
Here's somebody with a birth time and a location.
7:42 p.m. Cincinnati, Ohio. Let me write
Because
that.
when I was studying it, you had to use the ephemeris and the table of houses. It was two big books that you had to flip through and chart the information by hand. And now you just plug it into the computer and it generates it. But you used to have to map all of these out by hand. It was a very laborious process.
Yeah, the internet definitely made it much, much easier. So yeah, would have to draw everything by hand and look everything up in books like you said. But now you could just go to, let me see. Hold on, I gotta get off this. Um, so I gotta log in again. It's gonna be kind of clunky. I apologize.
What happened? Oh, sorry. What happened to her breast? Uh,
Oh, I don't know. So I can add a chart. So at one, her birth information went away. I don't know her name, so I'm gonna name
I think it was Leah,
woman Leah,
Leah, like in the Bible.
and she said Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yep,
And I think she said 7:42 a.m. She
yep.
can correct me if I'm wrong.
We don't know the date.
Oh, we didn't. Yeah, she didn't give the date. Okay,
Leah, if you're out there, pop the date in. That's gonna be important. Unless you want to.
I'll just make up a date.
Okay.
We'll give her a few seconds. But yeah, it's really complicated. So what were
I
you
think
asking about?
it was PM.
PM. Okay. Well, we'll say 2000. We'll just create a chart. We'll pretend this is Leah's chart.
Oh, Zephyr's here. We were talking about past life. He's the kind of astrology he does uses the north and south nodes of the moon, and they are related to past life stuff that you bring into this new life. So I remember you talking about your past lives. So this is the chart that got generated just from the
Yeah. So Leah didn't give us
data we just put in. Okay. I
a
like
birth.
this chart too. Why are they're so symmetrical?
Yeah. So there's like this whole thing with patterns too. So let me get my little pen back on. Yeah. So her chart's completely different from mine. I don't know how old she is and when she was born exactly. I didn't see a response from her. But yeah, see, she's a Sagittarius rising. Her sun is in. So this is called a stellium when she has this big group of stuff over here. There's all
Oh
this stuff's
yeah,
in
that's happening
Cancer.
tonight.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going through some tumultuous times. A lot of stuff is going from water sign Pisces into Aries. So that has been a big significant. So a lot of things are probably going to kick off according to astrologists. But like I said, it's not meant to be a fortune telling tool. But with a lot of these energies, this is kind of like World War III energies going on,
Oh
and with
Lord,
everything.
don't tell them that. Is it kicking off today or like over the next several months, years?
So when we look at transits, which is quote unquote predictive astrology, we kind of look at the outer planets. So the outer planets are much slower moving
Hmm.
and they take a lot of time and a lot of energy. So they're not exact. So like Pluto, for instance, is where's Pluto? Should be up there he is. So Pluto takes 248 years to go all the way around the sun, while we only take 1 year here on Earth. So it's kind of a generational planet.
Is
It's
it
like this.
still a planet? What did they ever figure out what
Yeah,
planetary gender he is?
astronomers consider it a dwarf planet now because it doesn't clear out its orbit. It's in the Kuiper belt, which is beyond Neptune, and there's just all a bunch of rocks and comets and asteroids floating out there. And Pluto is only about the sixth the size of the moon, so it's smaller than our own moon. So it's not considered a planet. In astrology, we consider it a planet, unless a lot of ancient traditional astrologers they don't even acknowledge Pluto, which I think is a huge fallacy. But just for the sake of astrology, we call the planet, we call the moon and the sun planets, even
Right.
though they're
Yeah.
luminaries.
Okay.
So use the term planet very, very loosely. I like to call them placements, but I'm not in a very good habit of calling them placements. I think that's a better term. But yeah. So yeah, you would look at like Pluto and Uranus and Neptune. So that's kind of we could pull up today's chart too, I guess. We're kind of all over the
And
place, I guess.
Zephyr put her. She has her information, her date and
Okay.
her time. I didn't know you were 70. Oh, okay.
Zephyr.
You're
Probably
wow.
spelling her name wrong.
You're just a baby.
What's her birth? What's her information? If she don't mind giving it,
What do you need first?
their city.
Farmington, New Mexico.
This can be really clunky too. Farmington. There we go.
There it
And
is.
her date of birth
77. And Leah just came back with her August 6th, 1977.
and her hour and minute. She has it.
5:47 a.m.
Okay.
Oh, see that yeah, that's more what my chart looks like.
Yeah. So she's a Leo sun too, is
Oh,
she?
she's right. It is one side. It's
Yeah.
in the first three and last three houses.
Yeah. So all of her stuff is kind of this concentration over here.
Yeah.
It's kind of called a bundle chart, I guess, or a bowl. Yeah, bowl probably more reasonable. So all the stuff's kind of on one side, and this is the other. So this is kind of like the quadrant. The first and third house is kind of like yourself. This is kind of like your relationships with others. This is uh kind of like your own psychic internal energy, if I believe right. And this is kind of like what you need to do. Like this is like a communal thing. So yeah. So I don't know if there's anything she wants to know in particular, but she's a Leo sun. Does she seem pretty like Leonian to you?
She's also Leo rising, huh?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
double.
she's dramatic and has a lot of personality. She used to read. I mean, she does read tarot cards too, so she's into all of this.
Interesting. Okay. And she's in the past life. She does past life regressions herself, or she just had them.
She's had personal experiences with past lives of her own.
Like remembering them.
Yeah, something like that. I think so.
Okay. That'd be an interesting conversation to have. But yeah. Okay. So I don't know exactly what we're going with this. I was like explaining astrology and people kept putting their birth times in, so I guess we kind of got distracted. What do you want to
And
look at? What
Leah
kind of
has her date now too.
Okay. So I guess we're just viewing charts then.
Whatever you want to do. Whatever, like, I think this is like people that may not know this is helping them learn a little bit.
Yeah, so I can give some like description, I guess, to kind of give an idea. So Leo sun, like everybody kind of sees as this loud, gregarious, proud person who's real attention seeking and stuff like that. That's kind of the generic description of a Leo sun. But Stephen Forrest, how he describes it, like in a past life or maybe in early childhood, you were not allowed to express yourself in some way. You're kind of have a wound towards your creativity and your self expression. So in this life, you kind of need to learn to extrovert yourself out into the world. And it doesn't have to be like you're singing and dancing and doing real loud, like extroverty things. Like I am a Leo sun, like I said, as well. And so I'm trying to be online and kind of give my presence in an intellectual way, being an
So it
astrologer.
can just be going on a panel.
Yeah, it'd be going on a panel saying, "This is my little niche. This is what I do. This is how I express myself." As I say, I kind of see astrology as art to me, really. Like you can get your chart read by 100 different astrologers and you can get 100 different variations. So there's nothing exact about it. It's not a science, it's more of an art.
Mm.
It's a language of symbols, really. Like this Leo sun right here, you could say 10,000 words about it.
Oh, right.
So how Stephen Forrest kind of like does that. So it's kind of like someone who hasn't been able to really express themselves. And it kind of just depends. You can't look at one point in the chart. So the sun is like how you express yourself, your leadership style. I did extrovert boot camp. I used to be a stripper. Okay.
I guess that's one way to get your talent out there, I guess.
So her moon sign is Taurus in a 10th house. So that's
What's
kind of,
the 10th house?
so the 10th house is the house of career. It's the
Oh,
house
okay.
of like your public reputation, how people see you as kind of like a societal whole.
Oof. I don't think I have anything in mind.
Yeah, I don't remember. I have your chart kind of locked up somewhere. We could look at that too again. But yeah, that's kind of like how your emotional state, and that's what's going to make you happy. So kind of being acknowledged in a career through beauty. So like she said that she was a stripper. I don't know if she was being serious or not,
Yeah, she
but
was.
okay. So people acknowledging her for her beauty and getting public recognition for it would kind of make her happy. But she
And
also
then
has
what's next to it? That
this is Chiron. This is actually a dwarf planet itself too. This was only discovered in 1977, and she was born in 1977. So interesting enough.
oh, the
So
first
Chiron,
year of Chiron.
yeah, as least of us knowing about it. It's kind of like Newton discovered gravity, but gravity was always there.
So
you
there
know,
might be other placements that are undiscovered that are affecting people's charts. Of
yeah.
course, though, by now it seems like we would have identified most of the ones in our vicinity.
So there's something newer called Eris, which isn't on here. I think you can actually go and add it, which is really cool about astro charts, is because you can go and add a bunch of cool stuff. Let's see if it's on here. Oh, it actually
Lilith.
isn't. Yeah, Lilith, I don't know much about. We can add it. It's not a technique I use. There's thousands and thousands of different techniques that you can actually use. But Lilith is up here. It's in Gemini in the 11th house. I
Ooh.
can't remember what that means exactly. It's Black Moon Lilith.
Wow.
But yeah, no Eris, but Eris is a very, very slow moving planet. I think it's somewhere in Taurus, if I want to say right now, and it moves like really, really slow, but it's kind of like showing like what's competitive and kind of like things like that, and kind of where you need to shine in that sense. But yeah, her ascendant is Leo. So her first house, she's going to be very loud and gregarious. So kind of having a sun and an ascendant there, that's probably going to say that she's a little bit more loud and extroverted. But it's interesting. We were talking about Chiron up here. Oops. And it's conjunct her moon. So when two planets are close together, again, these aren't planets, but we're going to call them planets because that's the terminology, means that they kind of form one conjunction. So she probably has some kind of wound around maybe self-worth or beauty or low self-esteem, possibly in the house of career. So maybe kind of she wasn't, like, it goes back to like she wasn't allowed to express herself. So that kind of wounded her somehow. And kind of getting herself out there and being acknowledged for her beauty and her self-worth is kind of going to be like a healing factor for her, kind of where that would get from. But that's interesting that she said she was a stripper, and she has this, which is ruled by Venus. So, so yeah. I mean, I can go on and on and on about this. You could write a whole book
I
on.
know like the one y'all did with me was like an hour of just layers and layers of nuance.
But yeah, you can definitely go real deep and find a birth chart. I didn't really sit down and go read Jeff's birth chart. Maybe I can do my own version of it from what Xeon did and kind of piggyback off that. That might be interesting to do one day. Since I can't practice and be paid for my craft right now because I don't have the license, which
Oh.
is
Well,
ridiculous.
are you looking for guinea pig? How do people find you if they want to
Well, you
play
can go to
around with the chart?
www.nicholsastrology.com right now, and it's kind of paid, but I guess I can't accept payment right now. So, but let's look at
Okay.
Leah's real quick since she did chime in on a birth date. Cincinnati, Ohio. What was her birth date?
Um, 7/13/83.
And it was 7:42 p.m.
Yep. Here, I'm gonna drop his website link too. There you go. I love your background.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's AI art because I have no artistic ability.
Oh, that was AI? That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Nice.
So she has a similar chart pattern to Zephyr. So she has like a bowl chart too. It's all on this side. It's like the bowl spilling upside down.
Well, you weren't far off because you had put her at Sagittarius.
Yeah. Yeah, she had a Sagittarius rising. Well, we knew the birth time, so we knew that much. But yeah, so she's a Cancer sun. I remember with that chart, that fake chart we did, she had this huge stellium, but she still has a lot of Cancer energy. She's a Cancer sun, and her Mars is in Cancer, and it's in the 7th house, which is the house of relationships. So her developing relationships on a deep emotional, intuitive level is going to be very important for her. She also has Mercury there too. She's a Sagittarius ascendant, so she's probably kind of could be seen as outgoing, maybe over idealistic, maybe kind of like argumentative in a way where she's right and everybody else is wrong. And it's kind of conjunct Neptune. So she has a strong spiritual psychic energy that's going along there as well.
It's like my truth. Um, well, Leah, there you go. Is any of that true? Let us know.
Yeah. If there's any like particular questions, I guess I could open up multiple tabs and jump around. Um, let's see. We can go find Jeff's chart. I have it in a different website.
Oh Lord.
Astrodynast.
I know that all of my planets are under the horizon except for retrograde Saturn conjunct the full moon, which was at the zenith when I was born. I was born just after midnight with a full moon in the sky on a stormy night
Okay, I guess I was
on
very
Friday
under.
the 13th.
So there's mine.
Scorpio.
Yeah, I remember you having a ton of Scorpio energy. I guess I don't have your shit in here. But we can change that. I prefer this one. Create chart. Do you remember your birth information, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't want to give it on publicly though. I got
Oh, okay.
haters.
Okay.
Here, well, I'll pop it to you on Discord and then unshare the screen, and then once you have the chart generated, just reshare it.
Okay.
You know what? I don't remember my birth time. Hang on. You know what? Shit. Because the very first time I saw a professional astrologer, I had the wrong birth time, and so the
Yeah.
whole chart was off.
Yeah, I remember you said that you were training to be one and you kind of like you had your birth time wrong and then you did your birth time right and it was like completely opposite of what it should have been or something like that.
Hey, Helena. Yeah, I went to an astro. He was really good. I was so impressed by him. It inspired me to become an astrologer. And then the whole time my chart was wrong. So whatever he was seeing it was accurate, but it was coming off of the wrong chart. So I think a lot of it is just reading people.
Mm.
What is Hang on. I have this thing somewhere. Did I give it to you?
I thought I had it in my data bank, but I guess I don't.
I think or did I give it to Xenon?
You probably gave it to Xeon and he probably generated it. Well, we
Well,
can look
it's
at
either 12:10 a.m. or 12:25 a.m. or 1:25 a.m. Just use 12:10. It's not going to be that far off. I'll probably know when I see the chart.
AM, you said?
Yeah, just after midnight.
Well, let me pull up Discord. Okay. Oh, it is so hard finding
It
certain
should be
cities.
Virgo rising with most of the planets in the first few houses, except for full moon and Saturn conjunct. Saturn's retrograde.
Okay, I got it up. Let's see. So this is a Leo ascendant, so this is probably not right.
Okay, try 12:25.
I gotta type everything in again because it deletes.
Oh, it's definitely Virgo rising.
I forgot your birth date.
Sean, you there? I didn't either, but when they read my birth chart, this is a person that didn't know me at all, and he was telling me all kind of things about myself. Like he had deep insight into my
Yeah,
psyche.
like for training, just to train myself, I was picking up people offline, and I didn't know anything about them either. They're perfect strangers. They just gave me their birth details, and I blew most of them away. What time? What birth time did you say, Jeff? Because that was still Leo rising.
Then fuck, I don't know.
Okay.
It's. Are you sure?
Yeah. So what was it? Just announce the time again so I could do it. I put 12:25 a.m.
12:25 a.m.
Yeah. So that was just right, kind of going towards the cusp. It wasn't quite on Virgo yet. It was still Leo.
Here, Hank. I'm gonna pop in Hank's. Here's Hank's chart. Hank did a reading.
All right. And his Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I remember if I were looking. I think I was looking at his not that long ago.
And his is 9:30 p.m.
Yeah, I don't think we
I
had
mean,
an exact.
I could dig out my birth certificate, but I don't feel like it's a
Yeah,
pain to dig out.
maybe next time when we do Trump's chart or something, we can kind of gloss over your ears real
I
quick.
really thought I had it. I do have it somewhere. Let me check my files.
Okay. I don't know Hank's birthday, but I think I have it in here. Where's Oflamo? There he is. December. I don't know if he wants me to announce this, but oh, Hank's a youngin. I thought he's a little older. All right, I'll share Hank's real quick. So Hank is an enigma.
Is it he though?
Why isn't that? Let me share. There we go. So yeah, what I was trying to explain before, and I kept getting just sidetracked, is the North and South node. But this is Hank's chart. So he is a Sagittarius sun, and his moon is over here in Aries in the eighth house. And we were talking about him being like a potential sex cult leader because the eighth house is about like sex and intimacy
I think
and
he's
social
working on it.
taboos. Yeah, I think he's trying. And it's an Aries, so that's like a sign that's really going to like take forward and go and kind of have initiation with. So I noticed a lot of things about ENTJs and INTJs is they got a lot of stuff that's kind of like bundled in one area. His is really extreme. And they got a moon that's kind of lying out in a whole different quadrant that's alone. Kind of mine's kind of like that too. Like we don't count this because this is not one of the 10 quote unquote major planets. But yeah, he has all this bundo right here in Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and floating into Aquarius. His Jupiter is in Virgo, and he's a Leo rising as well. But his moon's kind of over all by his lonesome over here, Aries in the 11th or the 8th house, and that would be called a singleton. So his North Node is where is his North Node?
Mine is 12:50 a.m. So
1250. Okay,
I
we'll look
just
at yours
found it.
again.
Yeah.
Why am I not finding his North Node? I'm probably glossing over it. Oh, there it is. So his North Node is in Capricorn in the 5th house. So his Cancer North, his South Node is over here. Oh, I'm a terrible artist. So what he kind of needs to stage away from, and we don't know
Oh,
his
I'm
birth
sorry.
time.
I forgot to. There you
Oh,
go. It wasn't shared.
okay. So if I remember right, Hank, you didn't have your birth time. I think you just asked your mom like an approximate birth time. But Cancer South Node, so that's someone who's kind of emotional and
He's
emotionally
clustered
guarded.
too. That would bundled all in what, two houses, three houses?
Yeah, but he does have like this Jupiter over here and this moon over here, like I said.
So that's houses three and four. What are those houses? No, four. Let's see. One. Yeah, three and four, four and five.
So the third house, what she has is is Venus in, and it's in Scorpio. The third house is about your intellect and your communication. It's kind of seen as a house of siblings, a house of possibly early childhood. Your fourth house, which is the cusp right here, is the astrological nadir. So that's kind of like your deep, intimate life, kind of like your childhood growing up, what you're like behind closed doors. And he has Venus right there conjunct that point. So establishing relationships with his family is going to be a very big thing for him in this lifetime. Again, we don't have an exact birth time, if I remember right, Hank. So we don't know exactly, even like throwing like 10, 20 minutes off can throw this off quite a bit. So he might be a Virgo rising if he's born like 20 minutes later or whatever. But he also has Pluto there, which is also making a conjunction. So Pluto's kind of a planet of death and trauma and stuff like that. So he probably had a rough. I don't know if he wants me to. We talked about this, so I guess it's not a big deal. It's gonna get very intimate and stuff too. So there could be very, very private, and it could be very revealing in a lot of ways. So I'm late.
Lou, we didn't really discuss why we would mix it, but I do know that most of the reading that I've had was more about psychology than astrology. So for whatever reason, when an astrologer is working with a birth chart, they are able to glean a lot of psychological insight about you from that. I don't know the connection. It's mysterious to me. Just like tarot cards. If a competent tarot reader is reading my tarot cards, they're going to be able to tell me things about myself that a psychologist might be able to tell me from talking to me.
Yeah, and there's also this branch of psychology called psychological astrology too, which evolutionary astrology kind of branched off from, and it kind of gets a little deeper into that, which I don't have a very deep knowledge of that, but I can kind of explain my avoidant personality disorder pretty well, I think. But anyways, like I
Using
was
the
saying,
psychology
yeah,
model.
he has a really deep wound there, and we're talking about the houses. So this is like your
Hank
house.
has a deep wound.
Yeah, so Pluto kind of shows like where your wound was and where you need to heal and where you need to transform. So
Oh,
developing like intimate relationships, like family wise, he's probably kind of had that rough. If this birth time is accurate,
well, yeah,
so
he's talked about that before.
yeah, okay, so that would kind of make sense.
Trying to
Unfortunately,
develop the intimate relationships
yeah.
or
So that
relations.
yeah, so he has Mercury and Mars, which is a conjunction too. So maybe a lot of explosive conversations, a lot of explosive anger. Maybe he kind of struggles to articulate himself at times and can kind of get really headstrong about it, especially since it's in Sagittarius, which is a fire sign, and it's very idealistic. It's kind of like I'm right and you're wrong kind of attitude, and he has a sun there as well. But that's in the fifth house, which is the house of children.
It's a
So
lot
that
of them.
yeah, so starting a family might be a good thing for him. I know he has struggles with establishing relationships because of the autism, but it's also the house of hedonism and the house of flings and a house of romance. So it's kind of like multi-tiered thing. There's a lot of stuff that's like traditionally viewed and it kind of leaks over. So it's just not like one concept. That's why it's really hard to pinpoint anything in astrology. I didn't struggle to articulate. People are just dumber than I expected. Yeah, that's another struggle that,
It's like cope.
yeah.
No, but I relate, Hank. Sometimes I feel the same way. My communication can only take me so far.
But let me drag this over here so I can pull up your birth chart without having to. You can't view that,
Oh,
right? You can't see that.
oh, hang on. Do I need to go ahead?
I know
Just
you
let me
didn't want
know
to give
when
me.
mine's up and I'll reshare. I didn't know that, Helena.
It's not sharing. Okay. So I know you didn't want to give your details out.
No.
And the website's not cooperating with me right now.
Oh yeah, tarot's good for that archetypes. And they also have astrological associations with them as well.
Oh my God, this is giving me issues. I apologize, people. There we go. Pull this up, make sure I got your birth time right. Birth date, I mean. And what birth time do you say, Jeff? 12:50 a.m.
12:50. Yeah, 1250
All right.
a.m.
All right. Go ahead and share again if you'd like. Or do I have to do it?
Is
I
it
probably.
yeah, there it is. Ooh. What happened? He shared him right off of the stream. He's gone. That something I guess something doesn't want my chart out there. I want to find out where my wound is. My Pluto. All right, here he is.
Sorry, I accidentally hit the wrong button.
Okay.
Been a clusterfuck of a stream. Uh, okay. So there's. Does that look right? Go on if you could.
Um,
Does that look familiar? Yeah. You got a Virgo
yeah,
rising.
Saturn and the moon, and Saturn's retrograde, Virgo rising, and all of my planets are okay, so it's second, third, and fourth house. Mostly second and third.
Yeah.
And which one's Pluto?
Pluto's right here. It's right on a cusp going
What is
into the
my
second
wound? What
house.
does that indicate?
So the first house is kind of what's included in your synod. So you're a Pluto rising like myself. So the wound is within yourself basically, and Virgo represents like the house of servitude, the house of developing skills and kind of making it useful towards humanity. So you probably come off as like this articulate kind of person who likes to get all the facts straight, who likes to kind of get all the information and stuff like that. But your wound is maybe like your self-esteem and your image and growing up and things like that and being
Is it like
different,
the house of trying to get a channel off the ground?
like a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
That can be a part of it. It's like you're trying to, like, it's making a square, which is obvious. Your sin is making a square to your midheaven because they're about 90 degrees apart. So that's kind of like your public reputation and your public image. And it's in Gemini, which rules media, it rules communication, it rules talking and having conversations with people. So that makes a lot of sense.
What is MC?
It stands for medium coli. I think I'm pronouncing that right, but we call it the midheaven. So it's kind of like Gemini was high noon, basically, like when you were
Oh
born.
yeah.
This is where the sun was rising.
And my whole family's Gemini.
Yeah, really? Okay. And your
I had a
moon's over
lot of
here.
Gemini energy growing up.
Yeah. You personally don't have a lot, so maybe that's kind of like why you had some
Probably
problems
because
at
I had
home.
enough in my environment. I didn't need. And then so that's the career, house of career.
Yeah, the 10th house is
Yeah,
a
I have
house of
nothing in it.
career. Yeah. So that doesn't really mean anything. Like you'll have transits and progressions and stuff. So like if you look, like I was explaining before, the sun, like you would look like, how old are you right now? 50, if you want
Five,
to share.
4. I'll be 55.
So let's say you're 55. So you would go to your birth chart and you want to calculate it. You would just count 55 days after you're born, and that's the date you would put in, and that's your progressed chart. So
What is the third house? Because I have a lot down there too.
so the third house is about intellect and communication. That's Scorpio. Like we were talking about, I remember reading your birth
Oh,
chart.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So you like to talk about things very deeply and kind of look at things kind of in a hidden lens. You kind of like to look at things that are uncomfortable and that are socially taboo and things that are comfortable with. And
Moi?
yeah, so your Mercury is actually right there, kind of like we were looking at Hank's chart. And I think that's a conjunction. Let me go down. I don't want to like give any of your birth dates away. I started using the cards to map out emotions. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about tarot, but it is kind of tied in with astrology because there's like the sun card and there's the moon card and all this and that too.
Lou, it is interesting. I was the same way. And when that guy, every time I've had my chart read, um, it, it was by total strangers, and it blew me away the things they could tell about myself from just whatever they were seeing in this chart. And it wasn't like they were cold reading me and I was giving them little hint. They were just like what Jeff's doing right now. They didn't know anything about me, and they were just going off of what the chart was suggesting to them. And it was so accurate.
Yeah, and I think Jeff linked it down below. You can watch the whole show that it was a couple years ago, I think, when we did it too.
Yeah, Hank had his read, and I had mine read by this Xeon guy.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. And
Hence
Xeon
the
knows
episode.
a lot more about it than I do. He's been doing it for a long, long time. I'm fairly new. So yeah.
Okay, well, does anything else stand out like about this?
We keep wanting to explain the North and South node, but we keep getting on
Okay,
tangents.
let's do that. Let's focus on that.
Okay. So your North node is Aquarius in the sixth house. So the sixth house is a house of servitude, which Virgo is associated with, actually. So what you would do is kind of like, this is where you need to go. And you're already 55, so you're probably already kind of there. So Aquarius is about what's different, kind of like going against the grain, going against society, like what your show's called, what outliers and exile. So it's kind of like a Aquarius in a nutshell. So you need to develop skills that are different from everybody else, that are kind of rebel rousing, kind of revolutionary, kind of genius in the house of
Check,
skills. So you need to
check.
develop skills. What was that?
Check. I've got check. I'm
Yeah.
already there.
Yeah. So, like someone who's younger or someone who,
That's
unfortunately,
where they would be headed.
they should be heading.
I
It's
guess I
optional.
arrived at exactly where my birth chart said I would be going.
So this is kind of like what's going to bring you joy in life. And this is kind of like what's the opposite is going to be over here in Leo in the 10th house or the 12th house. And it's actually conjunct your ascendant as well. Because it's kind of conjunct your your descendant, which is about establishing relationships. So you kind of what you need to stray away from is kind of like doing what's expected, like doing the status quo, and it's kind
Yeah.
of like creating the 12th house is about the house of troubles is what it was called anciently, but it's kind of like the house of like psychic energy, like this psychic energy. We're so conditioned to believe like, oh, astrology isn't real because science can't put it in a lab and study it and replicate it over and over, so therefore it's not real. We have all these man-made rules that everything has to fit in these nice little box and all these nice little categories, or it isn't legitimate. So that's kind of like what we're conditioned to believe. So no, you can't be religious, you can't have a spiritual side to you or anything like that. So that's kind of like blocking. And I know you said that you're a Satanist, which is kind of an atheist, really, right?
Yeah, my non-theistic.
Non-theistic,
But that's
yeah.
separate from science because science has its specific domain
Yeah. So like
where it's good
science,
at, but it can't apply to everything.
yeah. So like science kind of says, well, there is no God because we have no tangible evidence that there is a God, but at the same time they can't disprove that there isn't a God. So anyways, they have all these laws and rules that kind of keep us from going there. So you kind of got to go away from the status quo and what other people are expected of you, and kind of like getting away from the group and being more of an individual and establishing relationships of different people that are kind of like exiled, basically, who are kind of on the fringe of society. And you got to develop like the skills, and you got this midheaven here in Gemini, so it's about media and communication. So yeah, you're on the right track, really.
Yeah. Wait, Enslaved by Truth is Brown's boy? I didn't know that.
What?
Oh, there's chat drama.
Oh.
But Hank's taking care of it with his tarot deck.
All right, well, I have another meeting coming up. Is there anything else you want to brush on real quick? I only got a few
No.
minutes.
Do you want to leave us with anything? I put your website. He's at Nichols Astrology. He also has his. I guess your channel is now also Nichols Astrology.
Yeah, so
Used to be TraumaType.
www. Yeah,
He has a ton of
www.nichols.
content on on typology, personality typology, and he's shifting to astrology. So if you want him to look at your chart, I guess hit him up.
Yeah, right now I don't know. I'm kind of in limbo. I don't know if you caught the first of the show, but I guess the city of Tucson says I need to get all these funky ass licenses to actually
Yeah,
practice
Zephyr, do
astrology.
you know anything about, because she reads tarot cards. He's trying to do astrology, and the city where he lives told him that he has to get a fortune teller's license, and it's going to take months and months and months. He has to do a background check and get fingerprinted and have a business license and all kind of other stuff. Do you have to do that where you are? Do you know anything about fortune teller licenses, and is there a workaround in the meantime?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people probably just do it anyways. From what and I was talking to an established business, a metaphysical shop as a brick and mortar business, and that's kind of what they required. I'm sure a lot of people just go rogue and or don't even know this law even exists. I didn't until yesterday, which is it's absolutely
I mean,
ridiculous.
I can kind of understand them wanting a business license, but
Yeah.
even like people do all kind of stuff on the internet, just donation based. But then the fortune teller license sounds, I don't know. I don't think, I think if people want to give their money to fortune tellers, I don't know that that should be regulated. What are they going to do if somebody regrets, like your chart didn't work out like Jeff said it would? I want my money back.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of like astrologers put on their website, this is for entertainment purposes only, as like a liability thing. But I think you can get a lot of insight, and you can discover who you are and kind of where you need to go through astrology. I think it's
Yeah,
not a
Dionne
fortune,
Warwick didn't need a license when she was doing her psychiatric friends.
or maybe she did and she just didn't
Madame Cleo, was
know.
she licensed? Why are they making you get a? That's discrimination.
Yeah.
Black women
Anyways,
can operate without a license, but white men can't. What's up with that?
yeah, I'm sure they get a little bit more slack than I would.
All right, Jeff. Well, it was good talking. We can do it again whenever you want.
Yeah, maybe we could look at Trump's chart and I can study it and we can actually do a thorough chart reading.
Yeah, I would love to delve into Trump's psyche.
Yeah,
We're
he's an
both we're the
interesting.
same Enneagram type, so I have a lot to offer.
But I suspect that he's an 8, so you're an 8 too.
Yep, 8-7 wing, and which is supposedly his type as well, 8-7.
Yeah, I don't know much about Enneagram, but that kind of sounds right.
So.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Sorry it was kind of scattered all over the place, but yeah.
No, I think it's very entertaining. Thank you for doing it.
And
And
what time are you starting to chart tonight with all the stuff moving in from one
I'm not
place to
sure.
another?
I'm gonna be on in a few hours at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific for my normal daily stream, and then sometime this evening I'm gonna do a third stream for the planetary parade. I'm just not sure what time. It'll be at night when it's dark.
All right, I'll keep an eye out. I got my kids and stuff. I got to get them fed into bed and everything. So all that fun stuff. All right. Well, thanks for having me on. No.
Yep. Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing.
All
And
right. Have a
we'll
good day.
see you again.
All right. Bye.
Take care. I'll even wave the curve. Ooh, you got the devil. Good. All right. Is that really Brown? I had no idea. Usually I can tell when it's him, but that one slipped past me. All right. Well, that's our show today. He only had about an hour that he could spare, and I have to go run errands and get my day started so that I can be here at 4 p.m. / 1 p.m. for my daily stream. And we're going to look at a few videos and just do an open panel. And then tonight we will do the planetary parade. I'll be out tomorrow at the same time. And then Tuesday's Mardi Gras. So I think I'm going to do a Monday and a Tuesday Lundi Gras and Mardi Gras stream. And that's what's coming up. I'll see you guys in a few hours for my regular day stream. Take care, everybody, and have a great rest of your morning. See you soon. This is a triple stream day. This was only the first of 3. Oh, thank you, Beak. Wow. Thank you very much. It was good to see you. It's always good to see you. Good to see all of you, honestly. I don't think there's a single person in here that I hate or can't stand. You guys are great. Thank you. Love to all of you. And I'll be back soon. Take care.